Hey guys, it's Sebastian back, and welcome back to Lost Hombres. So we're back with another day of exploring my childhood, seeing how things have affected me, kind of seeing how my life played out, and how I've gotten to be who I am today, and some insight on the things that have molded me into the person that I've become. So yeah, last time we talked, if I recall correctly, we talked a lot about what had happened to me growing up, some things with my dad, some things with my mom, and very specific events that played out in my head that have made an impact on my life and have really like changed my perspective on, development, on the way I interacted with the world growing up, explaining a lot more of like why I struggle with certain things and helping me make better choices for my children. So again, through the things that I learned through my own development and the insights that I have, I was able to make changes in the way I raise my children and the way that I engage with them and the things that I provide them. So at the end of the day, as long as we can really learn from the places and experiences that we've had, the things that have affected us, and we can make meaningful value out of these things, that's where we really hit that sweet spot for personal development. So yeah, I really want to, continue working through talking about what I've been through, how it has influenced me. And I thought I would share a little bit today about kind of going a little bit back from where we were. So I was really heavy on talking about like things that really affected me, the trauma, and we'll talk about today. I want to talk about the characters and the people that played a role in my life and how they influenced me and the things that they mean about who I am today. And again, people from my childhood that I would feel have been a big influence in my life. And so we talked about my mom and dad a bit. So let's get to another really important person in my life, which is my grandma. And the thing about my grandma for me is, for me, my grandma really is the first parent that I like. She's really my parent. Like I see her as the person that has been the biggest role model in my life, like the biggest guidance in my life, the most positive light in my life. She's a lighthouse of a human being, always talking to people, always caring about others, very sweet, but also a very determined human being. When she wants something, she will achieve. This woman is incredible. So, my mom, when she was very young, was actually given polio as a child, which actually handicapped her. So, she actually had to go to Children's Hospital here in San Diego for like 15 years straight, like consistently. I had to go get medical support throughout her development. And my grandma to take her every single time. And she took her for years. And like literally, like consistently took her and just made it happen. During this time, this house that I live in now was collapsed. They had originally had this house and it collapsed. And so they rebuilt it from the ground up. And she had to go work. She had to go work cleaning houses and doing things to be able to like build the house. So, it's really interesting to see kind of how life can play out when you develop a lot of ability to regulate and stay confident and stay consistent. Because I'll tell you this, the one thing that she does really well is she's very consistent with her routine. So, like, literally wakes up, like cleans, takes care of herself, makes sure everything's organized where it needs to be. Just a very productive person, and make sure her garden's taken care of. She's clean, moved, called, done, ordered. Doesn't matter. Gets all of her stuff just out of the way and every day. And she also kind of uses it as a way to work out, which is good for her age. So, like, she just does a really good job of being consistent. And she also takes time to rest. So she gives herself a break, lets herself relax, lets herself exist. So it's just a healthy balance for her to be able to just kind of express herself and be, you know, cool off at the end of her day. And then she does rest. She tries to go to bed at a very consistent time, and again, like she wakes up when she needs to and she goes to bed when she needs to, but she makes sure she gets her stuff done and has some fun. And yeah, she's just a healthy person. Like, yeah, she has feelings and stuff, but she also just is like whatever, right? Like it is what it is. So she's always been the person in my life that will accept you for who you are. She may not agree with you. She may not like it, but as long as like you're on your own doing your own thing, she'll accept you. She's just like, hey, that's you, right? So she's really cool about being a open-minded person, flexible person. She just is a very loving person. She really is the first example for me for, like I said, like a motherly figure, where she was just a kind person. She also was the person that would give me $1. And back in the day, when you get like a bag of chips and a soda for $1, you could, be big balling with that. And so she would like give me that, and that was like the little fun she'd get for me. And so yeah, she's like, "Don't tell your mom, right?" Oh no, $1, right? So we go get our stuff. But yeah, that was just her way of being a kind person and always thoughtful. Always putting everybody in front of her. Very much willing to get up at any time of the day to help you. She's just on it. And again, she is very much like the leader of her own little guide. Like she follows her desires. She doesn't like something, she'll tell you, right? But also she won't bother you. She'll leave you alone. She might mention it, but that's it. She'll just kind of move on from there. So yeah, she was just somebody that helped me feel love, helped me experience kindness, humanity. Very much a healthy human where we could be on the bus and she'll just talk to anybody. And she just wants to cheer people on and be there for people. She would collect clothes for homeless people. She would donate food all the time to people who were in need and in crisis. Always going out of her way to make sure others had stuff. But she also worked really hard too. She would work several jobs or do whatever she could to, keep things together, sell things. And yeah, she's just an awesome lady. Just a really good role model, an inspiration. And she's an example of what happens if you take care of yourself, that you can live a long time. So it's nice being able to watch somebody be a healthy role model. And one thing that I know about kids is it only really takes one positive role model for them to develop. So as long as they have one person who's a positive role model, they will positively develop. So it's good for them to have somebody who is like their example, the person that's going to help provide them with a frame of reference for what it means to be a healthy person. And one of the things that it's going to be, how do you do that? Well, you model good behavior. You help them feel good and they'll respect you. And then when they respect you, they listen to you more. It's when you force your ideas, when you invalidate people, when you want to control people, that they don't respect you because you don't respect them as a person. So my grandma respects me as a person. She may not agree with me, right? But she can say, hey, you know what? He's doing his thing. He's doing his way. So she like typically enjoys when I have sleeves. She's always like, "You should wear sleeves." So it's funny. It's like when I'm going to work, she's like, "You look great," and when it's a weekend, she's like, "That's what you're gonna wear." Anytime she sees me in sleeves, she's like, "You look great." It's just how she is. But again, anytime that day, she's like, "You want coffee?" And it's like she's just offering this stuff. And she's like, "You sure?" And then when she says, "You hungry?" You can't say no. So it's like, yeah, I'll eat something. You just gotta tell her. And the other thing about it, you can't tell her how much anyways, because she's gonna make however much she wants. You can even tell her, hey, yeah, scrambled. Scrambled? Yeah, okay. Over easy. All right. You know what? Hell yeah, grandma. Thanks. You just go with it. Like, she'll sometimes wake up at like 5 in the afternoon and she'll still make food. So she's like, it's just part of her day. It's just how she, you know, gives back to society. She's a productive person. So that's just someone really important in my life who I'm blessed is still alive, and I get to hang out with her in her days now, and now I get to be the one that gives her candy and slip her a 10 or a 20 and wink. You know, do something nice for yourself. So it's kind of nice to be in that role now and have that kind of relationship. So it's something that yeah, it's nice to be able to experience this because not everyone gets to. But it also teaches me, like I've said before, that people reverse age. And so it's like I have my kids and then I have my grandma who both want to constantly show me how independent they really are. No, I can do it by myself. I'm independent. Okay. Kids always are showing you how much they're growing, and then seniors are always showing you how young they still are. So we're all really trying to achieve the same thing, which is to be young. And then when you are young and you can be the adult, the thinker, right? The person that processes information, then you get to be respected as the adult that you are. So, it's nice to be able to have that relationship so that, hey, I'm consistent now. So now I get to be a positive role model for all the other people. So yeah, it's nice to find that flow, and be able to be in that flow state. So yeah, grandma, excellent person in my life. So we could talk about grandpa. Ooh. So my grandfather, this is my mom's side of the family. So we'll start with that. My grandfather, we were close. Like I knew him. I was around him, but he wasn't a very like interactive kind of dude. He didn't really interact with with me specifically. Like there was moments. He was very OCD, like do not touch my stuff kind of person. So we were young, he would not want you touching his stuff, and you had to like do like what, like you pretty much had to live within a parameter. And I feel like grandma had to defend us because like he just was like no. So yeah, he was very like specific. As he got older, in my adolescence, like after probably like 12 or so, he probably changed. Like, he was a lot better after that with me. I mean, again, we weren't close, but like I don't know, I didn't bother him. And here's what's funny: my uncles. I have one uncle who he had like a piercing and stuff, right? And my grandpa was not okay with it. And made him take it out. I don't know if he got like beat up. I can't remember what happened, but I know there was some drama for having like a piercing. I had my snake bites, and so he didn't. They know he said nothing to me. Yeah, I had gauges too, and I had colored hair. I had my nails done. I was emo. So yeah, he changed his ways eventually, I guess. Right? What you gonna do? What you gonna do, homie? Anyways, so yeah, he was like that, very specific. Uh, Definitely was a big eater. He was a foodie. He died because he was an overeater and his heart was like enlarged. He had like an enlarged heart. So he was born with an enlarged heart. Yeah. He actually he grew up in a mansion and now it's a museum. And there's a city in Mexico where his house was the first house with a elevator. He had like an uncle in government or something, like the governor of some state in Mexico. But yeah, he left that to be with my grandma. So he like the stories that my grandpa would like ride his motorcycle and like, what's up, girl? And my grandma, she has a very interesting history. Her mom died when she was like 15, like 16, 15. I think it was 15. But her mom died when she was really young. So she had my mom. So she kind of like is like that was just a big loss in her life. Was like she lost her mom. She just didn't have that. So yeah, my grandpa wooed her. He wooed her. And yeah, and then they got shunned because grandpa was with like a farmer's girl, a rancher girl, you know, and so that caused some problems. But grandpa don't care. Grandpa he gonna take grandma. He loved grandma, and I know why. It's her cooking because she's a fantastic cook. But she doesn't. She just does it for fun. So she's like super skilled, but she just likes to cook for her enjoyment. Like she'll cook all kinds of crazy stuff. She cooks bean burritos. She cooks tamales. She makes like the piña. She makes the queso, the frijol, the pollo, the carne, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, she cooks everything like pozole, mole, arroz con puerco, everything. Like ask her, she can make it, and good too. She has her own like recipes, her own flavors. She has her own way of doing it. She does everything by hand too because she's like, it's not the same if you do it machine. You gotta do it by hand. She's like that, man. She'd be 84, like making 200 tamales, and then she'll every year. I'm never doing that again. Another year or two. All right, let's go. If this is what it takes to get the family here, all right. We make a joke that the, the tamales are more valuable than any of the terrain. Like those are gold. They fight over them. We have family drama with tamales. It's like people are hiding them, like department store shopping. They're like put them away. You know, they're like putting them. Like one time, my grandma saved me some, and then like she she took them away from me and gave them somebody else because I was like going to the secret spot, right? And they weren't there, and I'm like, what the heck? Did someone jack me? And then I told my grandma, she's like, oh, I gave him to your uncle. I was like, betrayal. And then the worst part, because I work so much sometimes, it's like I don't get an opportunity to eat tamales. I'm like, no. I'll be like, I'll eat right now. I'll go down there. And then by the time I get back, I'm like, where's the tamales? They're like, everyone ate them. It's all right though. It's all right though. And the worst part is I know the secret spots. I think everybody knows the secret. So it's not a secret anymore. If everybody knows about the secret spot, it's not a secret. It's only a secret when only me and you know. Anyways, but yeah, so she's a really good cook, and that's how she got my grandpa's attention. And they're from different places. My grandpa is from he's from Yucatan, and then my grandma's from Hermosillo, Sonora. So yeah, they're from different places. I don't know how they like. I don't know where they met where. I probably don't get. I don't know if my grandma was. I don't know if they were both in Tijuana or if they came here. No, see, they were in Yucatan. I don't know how my grandma got over there, but somehow they're from like opposite points of the coast, and they were together. I don't know how that story. I'll have to ask my grandma now. That's like a new one for me. But yeah, they met, had my uncles, and then they came back to or they came to Tijuana, and then I think they had like a store at first. They ran a store for a while. Yeah, and then there was a store, and then later my grandpa worked for the bank, and then my grandma would like clean houses. So that's how they kind of started their life, having their kids. But my grandpa was kind of he was very strict. He's your old school like boomer type of grandpa, silent generation type of grandpa. You know, had a short temper, had a short fuse. He didn't talk much. Yeah, I don't remember him talking a lot. I mean, maybe he talked to everybody else, but I didn't. He didn't talk to me a lot, so I don't know. He liked to travel, so that was interesting. But yeah, it's like again another male figure in my life that didn't really communicate. You know, I mean, the most I can say, like he worked, he had a job for a long time. He worked at the bank. He's consistent with that. He liked trains. You know, he liked to take pictures. He was ahead of the game when it came to technology. I'll give him that. Always had like camera. Would get a flat TV when it would come out. Like he was like the technology guru. He's like, I'm gonna get it. Digital camera, I'm gonna get one. So he was definitely that guy that would invest in technology opportunities that he could. It made him feel like he was like current. So that was kind of cool. He always had like new cool stuff like that. But again, we couldn't touch it, but I mean, we get to experience it. So at least there was that, right? And so yeah, that was my grandpa. He passed away. I can't remember how many years now it's been, but he's passed. It's been like over 10 years. So he passed away from again, being overweight, being unhealthy, not eating in a very unhealthy fashion, and he had a heart condition. He had actually a pacemaker that made him live longer than he probably should have. But yeah, he passed after eating too much shrimp, and it like caused a cardiac like problem. But yeah, my that was my grandpa. Again, not much to say, not much to share, not many experiences with him. Just kind of like the guy. He was like an NPC kind of. He was there, but didn't interact too much with me. Then let's see who else. So I have some uncles that are kind of relevant. Um, so I have one uncle who, let's see, the oldest uncle from my mom's side. Um, he never literally lived with us, so I was really close to my cousin back in the day. And so when she'd be here, my cousin, like we were close. So I had a good connection with my cousins and stuff back then. We were actually really close as a family. We used to do like giant family gatherings. Like we actually collect everybody. Everybody would get together, and everybody would kind of be doing like like group stuff. But I'll tell you this too. It's not that fun to like. It was like you're sitting there, and especially if you have very like strict parents, it's like it sucks when you're a kid and you have to like put on a show for people. It's like, dude, your brain's not developed for this. Like their brains aren't designed to be sitting there for that long, like playing a part, right? And so sometimes like these family events can be kind of like anxiety provoking events because you're being forced to do things that aren't really developmentally appropriate. And like, I've said this in the past, like let's say a kid's like itchy in a sweater or hot, and then you tell them you can't take it off because you need to look nice. It's like, dude, they're a child. Like they're suffering. Like you made them wear that. They may not have wanted to wear that. Like why? Like when do they stop like having autonomy at that point, right? Like when do they stop getting like some kind of like right to some extent? So same thing. Like kids lose their rights with some parent groups, and they just have to do whatever they're told, even if it's like not developmentally appropriate or healthy, and kids suffer as a result. Again, they for what? Like because a parent's like, I want you to look nice for pictures. Like that's not that's not developmentally appropriate for the kid. So anyways, just something to think about. But yeah, grandpa not so much. Uncles, like I said, my uncles, like my story with my uncles is interesting. So some of the uncles I'm closer than others. I've had some weird experiences. Like one time I had an uncle that was hitting my girlfriend. Like when I was a teenager, that was weird. I was like you gonna chill, dude. And but for the most part, like I had some good experiences with my uncles. My uncles are typically very passive. I would say, yeah, like I've got like at least three uncles that are kind of like run by their partner, right? So like their partner runs the show. They're very passive. They don't really put boundaries down. They don't really I don't see them like putting effort into like communicating limits, and they just kind of accept whatever they're provided. Which hey, if that works out for you, cool. Like, it's not my vibe, but everybody has their own kind of existence. As long as you're not depressed and as long as you're not anxious and you're satisfied, I'm not going to be able to tell you what you like or don't like, right? But when you feel limited in who you are and limited in what you are, that's when I'm like, maybe consider, what's going on here. So yeah, I feel like I've had As far as examples, I do have a couple. I have an uncle who he's pretty cool because he's kind of shown me. He's always kind of when I was a kid, he took care of me really well. But then there got kind of weird for a while where he would make fun of me, especially when I was like a emo kid. I was very emo back in the day, and he wasn't very nice to me during those times. So it kind of affected me like long term. But after becoming an adult and like now that I am who I am, like it don't affect me. We have a pretty good relationship at this point. But at the time, yeah, it really did impact me. Getting made fun of or like having people that weren't supportive, just feeling like their way of love was making fun of you, and that's not something that I enjoyed back when I was a kid. And especially because when you come from a household where there's a lot of like struggles with affection, and there's already a degree of bullying or emotional what was it, like an emotional deficit. So they're not really healthy in that sense. They're what did I had a name for it last week. It was ah it's like they're delayed but with their emotions. Yeah, but anyways, so yeah, they're lacking, and because they're lacking in that ability to like understand feelings, and they cause distress in the people around them. So but I get it. Like a lot of parents, if they're not taught these skills, how are they supposed to know that there's a better way, right? But again, this goes back to some of us go to therapy even though we didn't never got told to go because something in us decided what. So at some degree, we need everyone to have some degree of accountability because that's the only way change works. Like you have to have some degree of accountability for change to exist. So, all right. So yeah, with my uncles, decent relationships. Never had any true problems on any of them. Never really close to many of them. I had one uncle that would come over a lot. He would bring pizza and stuff. I remember one time, man. Woo, so hmm, I was in Mexico, going to do adult stuff with my brother, and they stole my car battery. I used to have the lift pink mustache in front of the car. Somebody used it to rip off my, bumper for like grill thing, rip it, and they took the battery. And I'm sitting there without a battery, like what the hell? And then some guy comes like, "You need a battery," and helps me acquire a battery from some random dude. Wasn't that? I know what you're thinking. It was the same battery. No, it was not the same battery. Actually, it was a different battery. But yeah, it was kind of weird that we had lost the battery to that car, and so we get back to the states, and then once we got to my uncle, like we were like, yeah, they pulled out my battery. We just got back. He actually took baking soda and some kind of like glue material, and he actually had to put it all back together. And it was like, what the heck? So like, it was one of those examples where you're like, okay, you're a chill uncle. Like, you just help me out. They just ripped my grill off, which, okay, lesson learned, right? I got a good story and $90 lost. So I guess that's not much anymore, but that used to be a lot. So yeah, we got back to the house and he fixed it, and he didn't say anything bad about it, but he did help me out. So that's one good example of like an uncle doing something positive for me. We had another uncle that would come over. This was a crazy story. So he would park his car, and when he worked for this one company, and he had parked his car, and one day we just hear this sound, pop, when we're outside, and his car is in our driveway, but also in the front yard, and it had been parked, and we're like, what the fuck? And you notice there's skid marks, like literally like dragged. And so what we realized is he had a Mini Cooper. Someone tried to jack his Mini Cooper. So they like hooked it, and they tried to tow it, and he had like the brakes on, like, or the back wheels were like locked. So it like dragged the wheels and popped them, and then bumped it up onto our yard. Now here's what's so fucked up, okay? And I don't know why, if it's because I lived in fucking Southeast San Diego or what the fuck, but the cops show up. Or we call it cops, and they show up. And they say, "Well, are you sure it wasn't a drunk driver?" And we're like, "What the fuck? A drunk driver?" Like, bro, the tires are popped and you can see the skid marks, and how would it get up here? And it's crazy. There was no damage to the back at all. How did it get up off the sidewalk onto the road? Like, onto, how did it get over here if it was a drunk driver, bro? Like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, maybe a drunk driver hit it and moved it. And we're like, so where's the damage at? Or maybe it popped back out because of the sun. Like, bro, what are you saying right now? Like, what are you saying? You are out of your mind. Like, what are you saying? They tried to steal this car. Like, literally, look at the way that's moved. We just told you what happened. Well, it could have been a drunk driver, and then it just popped back out. That was like one of the first times I ever felt like cops. This cop is an idiot. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not listening at all. Like, I'm giving you a very logical, factual situation, and you literally are just like, nah, I think it's this. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, use your mind, bro. So, anyways, that was one story we had my uncle who almost got his Mini Cooper stolen in our front fucking yard. So, yeah. So anyway, so that's one of my uncles that I had a good time with, and they come in and out of my life. Again, we had uncles that would stay with us when I lived in California as a kid. They would stay with us, so we'd build some kind of relationship. But again, they weren't much talkers. They didn't really, they just kind of live a very basic life for the most part. Say I have like one uncle who, like, he goes on like adventures as best he can, rides motorcycles, ran his own bakery, kind of like a go-getter, likes to learn like how to build houses and do things. Like, he's always trying to learn stuff. So I respect him as a man. I respect him as a person. So that's what one uncle I really like. And then I have one uncle, alcoholic. So definitely had some problems there. Like, always having drama, always having problems, unstable, inconsistent, and then like just family drama within that side of the family. Just, yeah, I'd rather not deal with that drama. So it's kind of some. I respect him as a person. No bad blood between me and him, other than like maybe one incident here or there. But over the mall, like, whatever. Like, my dad was an alcoholic, so I feel like I just understand alcoholics, and they're like a slave to their feelings essentially. So it's like, okay, dude, like, just be on your part of over there, and I'll be on my part over here. And then my other uncle, how do I explain him? Like, he came to my house a lot when I was a kid, and I know him the most, and he's actually my godfather. But like, we don't talk a lot. Like, we'll talk sometimes, but it's just like small talk, and that's about it. So he's a cool dude. But yeah, I don't think like any of my uncles like work out or like really like have a lot of passions, hobbies, or interests, other than, like I said, maybe one. And his interests aren't like expansive, but it's like he does like stuff. Like, he likes to ride motorcycles and stuff. So I'll give him credit. Like, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much my family on my mom's side. So again, they all had like different influences on me, especially like my grandma being the biggest one. And I would say the rest of them, because I saw them the most out of all my family. We tend to hang out with like my mom's, because we lived in San Diego, so obviously that's the closest. My dad's from Indiana, so like the closest people obviously are in Indiana. There's nobody here, so it's just more convenient to be around my mom's family. But on my dad's side of the family, there are some important people as well. So my grandma on that side, we have an interesting background. Is like, as a kid, she was cool. The interesting thing about her, she's like a chain smoker. She had a lot of problems growing up. She had like issues with her parents. She was had a lot of abuse growing up. A lot of problems happened. She also had a lot of different uh, boyfriends and stuff at the time. Inconsistent. She had her own problems. So there's a lot of different challenges happening on her side, and where she was raised, and especially being raised in a small town in Indiana, and just, in the farmland, just a different type of environment. It's a different pace from living in San Diego or living in Tijuana. It's just a different type of environment completely. Just, yeah, small town vibes. This is where my dad came from, corn and soybean farms. So my grandma, she She tried her best to raise my dad. She had her own problems. Like I said, she oftentimes would prioritize her relationships over being a mother, and so that was a challenge for them. My dad had to go live with his grandfather for a while, and so that was a big uh, problem too. So he lived with his grandpa, and then my grandpa, like I said, he was kind of a toxic dude, so he had his own problems. And so yeah, when he went back to live with his mom, she had again inconsistency, instabilities, on and off living with different people. She did get married one time to a guy named David, and David ended up adopting my dad, which is where my last name Shields comes from. So my whole last name comes from my dad getting adopted by a guy who married his mom. But then, and then they had his brother, which was my Uncle John, which we'll get to him in a bit. But my Uncle John came along, and then at some point soon in the near future, David actually died. And so that really fucked my dad up, and also fucked my grandma up, and obviously their kid. And that was like a big loss for my dad because my dad didn't have a dad growing up. So that was the closest thing to a dad he had, and then got snapped away. So he had his grandfather, but again, his grandfather was a really like strict militaristic asshole, just like fuck you, you're gonna be this way, this is what's going on. So like hardcore, like authoritative, yeah, you know, like you're gonna be like this. So yeah, it was just a challenge, coming from that. And then when he died, it really messed her up too again. And she dealt with her own problems. She just, couldn't keep a job, or was unstable with relationships, had low value, had a hard time taking care of herself, like didn't have a lot of skill sets to benefit from. And again, when you get raised in a toxic environment where you're just trying to escape and leave, you really don't get a chance to be yourself. When you lack that healthy childhood, when you get to be like that little kid version of yourself, and you get to know who you are, that helps you find fulfillment in life, even when you don't have parents anymore. So, like, the whole way you're wired, and the reason why it's important to appreciate your wiring is because that allows you to find your meaning in life when there's nobody else around. This is your meaning for life. This is what you're supposed to do. So, regardless of what environment, you'll find your purpose. It's in here. But when you get that turned off, when you get that shunned away, when you don't know how to feel, when you don't get taught to address your emotions, you don't address them at all. So you go numb or you overwhelm yourself. So either one of those, right? Whether you're numb or overwhelmed, when you have no desires, you can't follow through. You can't have a thing that you want to look for. And so, yeah, it's like when these people are depressed, when they're numb inside, they're not going to find fulfillment. And so what happens to that is that you don't have value in yourself. You only value yourself as much as people value you because you don't value yourself. And so the only way you can feel any kind of support is from others. So you have to seek it. So that's why they may seek relationships, because they don't feel valuable enough and they want somebody to validate them because they're unable to validate themselves. So this is where I tend to see, when especially like relation, like we look at my grandma and what happened to her and what affected my dad and why he's the way he is, especially again, living with his grandfather who also, imagine like you get abused by somebody and then like you give your kid to that person. Like where are you at in that process? And this is why this is someone that's not thinking. This is someone that's just feeling, right? They're feeling overwhelmed. So their solution is to what? Right? Like a kid, just get rid of everything. Like I can't handle it. It's better than I have it. I can't do it. Right? But then what happens to my dad? He goes to this person and boom, right? He has this whole situation where now he's not being the one receiving that, right? So it's like you mess up with one kid and you traumatize them with your parenting, and they have a kid because they're young and dumb and they don't understand life yet, and then they can't raise that kid because they don't have the proper insights and tools, and then you get the kids. So that's what's crazy too sometimes, like how some grandparents are raising the grandkids, but it's like, man, they really did it the first time, didn't they? Now I'm not saying that every grandparent is going to be a bad parent, right? That's not what I'm saying, because there are some people that naturally are wiring bipolar disorder, different problems. They naturally may have their own problems, right? No matter how supportive you try to be, all kids are wired differently. Some kids are just haywire, right? That's just how it's going to be. But when it comes to, how some of these people are, right? This is developmental stuff, right? This is, you're not teaching them, you're not helping them, you're not providing them the right resources. How are they supposed to, and so like you mess up with one kid, you don't provide them with what they need to know. And then they have another kid, and now that kid doesn't also know how to survive or be like healthy in life. It's like, now you're gonna give me this kid after I messed up the other one. Now, I will say, do people change over the course of their life? Yes, right? Especially when you're a really young parent versus older, you have experience, more knowledge, more insight. You've seen things, you have more wisdom, you could say. So yeah, it's a different perspective once you've aged. But when you're young, right? But that's the other thing. Not everybody changes their perspective. Some people stay the same and stagnate, right? And so they're like, oh, I messed up the first time, so I got to be even crazier this time. Yeah, those are people that struggle with common sense, right? Anytime I see people that raise their children like they're giant children themselves, I don't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're like a sibling. If they raise you like a sibling, you will always be looking for a parent. Period. You will always want your parent to just admit that they weren't a parent. That's what you're looking for. Can you just admit that you weren't a parent sometimes? What, you mean I'm not perfect? No, I just want you to admit, like, yeah, I messed up. Like, I fucked up. Oh, I'm the worst mother. I'm the worst father. No, I just want you to own up to your problems. I just want you to be real. No, it's like pulling teeth out of them. So, yeah, that's the problem. That gap, that little sensation, until you learn to what, like, I don't need that anymore, right? You find the adult in here, and you satisfy your little kid now. In the past, they would manipulate, they would change how you would interact with your inner child so then you wouldn't engage. And so you would disable that. But now, when you start becoming that adult for yourself, then you can activate yourself. You don't have to fucking worry about anybody else. I don't need your approval. I'm happy. Because here's the other ironic part. Two things for parents, right? How many times parents be telling you, hey, just call me when you need something. And then when you do that, you know what they say? You only call me when you need something. That's wild. That's wild. So, just an example of how parents might work. It's like, did you really mean what you say, or do you just like what was the point of saying that? If you actually didn't, if that was, if it didn't mean like when you meant it, anyways. So sometimes it's like even this. My favorite quote too, when parents tell you this: "I did my best." It's crazy. You know what good parents do, or the best parents do. I did my best. You know what they say? You did your best. Because they're talking to their kids. Now, I did my best. Okay, they're not trying to justify their parenting. Why? Because their parenting is already effective. Imagine that. Imagine having effect. Imagine just being a good parent. How do you know? Because you got good kids. Your kids are healthy. They're talkative. They act their age. That's a concept. Imagine kids acting their age. Oh my gosh, that's so controversial. It's crazy. Like you can't say normal stuff anymore, guys. Just treat the kid like the age they're like. I'll have a parent that's like, hey, my 12-year-old, they're talking back to me. Why are they doing this? And then I'm like, they're 12. No, but like, no. You know, they're 12. They do this. Every parent thinks they're gonna have the one that's different. And look, that's concerning too if your kid's different. Why is my kid different? Why are they not responding like the typical child? Like, because that those are milestones too, right? So that's like, okay, what's happening here? And so when I get the common response, they're doing this. I'm like, okay, explain it to me. And they're like, yeah, they don't like this, they don't like, and they're changing. I'm like, sounds like a 12-year-old. Yeah, but no. Just Work with it. Just work with it, and we'll see. So that's something I have to reinforce sometimes with people because I don't they want their kid to be so much older than they are, and this is where parents mess up again so often. They want their kid to be an adult when they're still a kid. They're not an adult yet. They're still a kid. And so when you try to make them an adult, you're actually hurting them. It's like asking an infant to walk. It can't do it yet. It doesn't have the development, right? But if you keep shaming it, it still gets hurt by the thing that if you keep yelling at an infant for not walking, it's still hurt. It's still affected by it because it's being affected by, but it doesn't know what to do about what you're telling it. So it's the same thing. If they're not developmentally ready for something, you don't want them to act like they are. You want them to be. I mean, I don't want them to act mature. I want them to be mature. Acting means you're just putting a mask on, but you're not actually doing it. I want you to be mature, right? But then what is to be mature, right? It's in the word. It's literally growing. It's a mature thing. It's maturing. It requires time. It requires growth. It requires getting older. And so that's what we're looking for. We want them to act their age. It is a concern if somebody's 24 and they're acting 12. That's fucking sus. That's weird, right? That's, hey, we got to work on that shit. But if somebody's acting 12 because they're 12, what are we talking about? If a 12 year is acting 24, that's weird. Now, weird can be okay. Weird can be good. Like, what if that weird means like they invented some new thing? They discovered some new thing. Like, it's okay if it's a little weird, but like, how weird? Like how weird. So, yeah, we want to explore these topics and we want to understand. How to be able to find that middle ground. So, but yeah, with parents and kids, right? Again, when we're not, working as a team, we're having a lot of friction, right? And those people grow up with what? Broken families inside. If I don't teach my kid how to think, if I'm not guiding them, they can't follow their survival skills essentially. Like, okay, let's say I tell my kid make a fire, right? And every time he tries to make it, I'm like, you're stupid. That's not how you do it. Go look it up. I could do all that, or I could just spend the hour, the half an hour to sit there with my kid and be like, hey, let's build it together and show him. And then keep showing him a couple times until one day he says, what? I want to do by myself. And I say, go for it, right? I give him a challenge. Okay, I'm going to help you halfway and I'm going to see if you can do it by yourself. And if you can't, well, next time we're going to try to do it by yourself, deal? And see, I already just what? I helped him kind of understand there's a mechanism to what we can do to make this happen. But I also taught him what? Hey, I'll give you some time, bro. Like let's push it a little bit. And so I can encourage him to work on his skills. I can encourage him to do something with this time, right? And build up his skill set. So we can still use these words of encouragement to help them develop and go further, right? So it just depends how we provide that information to them. But yeah, kids, an adult, right? When we're in here in our system, if it's messed up, it's no bueno. It's not gonna help us. Right. So again, when these people were destroying these people's common sense, like my dad, again, he gets angry. He was a very angry kid, always mad. He was a very angry child because again, look at the environments he was in. He had to be in some tough situations, right? Like he had to do some messed up stuff. So of course that's going to affect him, right? Of course that's going to make him like frustrated and upset. So yeah, it was a problem. So when he can't regulate, right? He can't have those desires, and then he gets overstimulated. And what did he do? Fight, flight, freeze, right? This is probably why he started drinking at 13. That's why, yeah, he started drinking at 13. So by the time he was 18, he'd already been drinking for 5 years. Imagine how much drinking he had been doing by that time. Quite a significant amount, right? So, with all that being said, well, now, of course, he's gonna have a problem. Right now, you got my grandma, my dad, right? So they got problems. They're having struggles, their own kinds of struggles, right? Financial insecurities, relationship insecurities. I think my dad had to fight a couple of my grandma's boyfriends. Yeah, it was just a weird situation. And then my uncle Johnny's pretty cool. I like him. He's always been like a cool little inspiration. I think he's got I think he's got the same disorder as me, really. But yeah, we're all cool. Like, I sometimes I make a joke and like he said he's my actual dad because I'm more like him personality wise than anybody. And so we make the joke like, oh, that's my actual dad. But yeah, so John's cool. Um, his family. I got cousins. They're cool. Like, I don't talk to them that often, but hey, they got their own lives. They do their own thing, so good for them. And I know they got kids and stuff now. So the family tree is growing, we could say, right? We've never like met up again. So I don't really know what's going on with that side of the family too much. Again, they live in Indiana or other states or other places, so it's kind of a mixed bag over there. Now let's talk a little bit about my grandfather from my father's side. So my grandfather abandoned my dad as a child. Like he was never involved in his life. So obviously that created issues within my family, within their family. My dad's like classic. I didn't grow up with a dad. Woohoo! And I did. Yay! Yeah, I get. Yeah, when you have your dad, you can't be traumatized, right? Is that what you mean? What do you mean? Is it what? I don't get it. Anyways, so yeah, my grandpa he left, but later in my life, my dad actually ended up meeting my grandpa, and he had connected with some family who knew some. It's like I don't know about somebody who knows whatever. Right? So he connected up, got synced up, went over there, and then he like ended up meeting his dad at some point. Actually, met his dad's family first, and then met his dad. And his dad lives in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma will become relevant because remember, at some point we lived in Oklahoma, but he met his dad after we had lived there. So this happened after, right? This wasn't during that time, so it was like a coincidence in some way. So, anyways, he ends up meeting his dad. We meet his dad. I meet my grandpa. This guy's like a gambling, smoking. I think he gambles and smokes. I don't think he drank too much. I can't remember. But he definitely we you know what he does like that I like? It's chicken what is it called? Oh my god. Oh god, chicken breast steak? No. I can't think about it right now. What is it called? Chicken breast steak? Why can't I think about it? Ugh. Anyways, there's a certain type of steak that I like to eat. And he likes it too. And it's like crazy all that genetic stuff. You're like, you like the same thing I do? Okay, cool. Like here we go, the genetic like, oh, why am I so similar to people? Why am I built this way? Yeah, it's kind of how it goes. But yeah, so then I meet him. I'm not, he's okay. But where it gets really interesting is later on when my dad and mom are like separating, or I don't know if you what do you want to call it. They've kind of been like on like not really together for a while. My dad had moved around. He'd been in Hawaii for a while. Then he went to Greece and for the military, and now he was going to come back to the states. Here's the thing, though: he didn't come back to anywhere near San Diego. He decided to go to Oklahoma. Interesting. I wonder why. So it's funny to me how you know, my dad told me I didn't have a father, right? And so instead of coming and living with us, he like lived with his dad. So I've worked through that problem, since then. It's always been kind of weird, but like I've worked through it to some extent. But yeah, like it's just because there's just this song called "The Father of Mine" by Everclear. And it's like he used to play it for me, saying, "Daddy gave me a name and then he walked away." And I was like, "Cool, Dad's a cool song." And he would tell me it reminded him of his childhood. And then, he did the same thing. It's kind of interesting, huh? So this is why I would send my dad and the cats and the cradle and the silver spoon. Yeah, I would just send him that sometimes. But anyways, yeah. So he met him. He came back into life. Again, I don't really talk to him too much. My dad, still lives out there. He's taking care of him. I think these days, don't really have much interaction with him. But I would say, like again, it's kind of interesting how all these different stories from these different people in these different places have played out. I will say there's this one lady that I really love, and another guy that's my aunt and uncle who live way out in Kentucky. I love those people because they were the sweetest, kindest, most awesome people I ever met. Like this lady is will cook anything from scratch. She's probably like she reminds me of my grandma, but she's like reminds me of like me too. Like she has like let's just say we're on the same disorder wavelength. You know what I'm saying? The same we were same vibe and tribe. You know. So yeah, she just had this really special connection and just the sweetest soul. And I hope to see her again someday. I hope to be able to make it out there one day, you know, and visit again before they go. But man, with everything happening with the government right now and passports and all that shit, I don't fucking know what's gonna happen. So, but yeah, maybe I'll have to take a bus or a train. But yeah, that's kind of the sides of the family when it comes to like grandparents and stuff like that. I um I didn't really interact with a lot of my family because I mean, other than like my Mexican side on the bigger events like birthday parties or weddings or whatever, like quinceañeras, this is the basic Mexican stuff. You know, first comunión, you know, primero comunión, whatever. You know, something happened and we all kind of meet up. So that's always been like a big part of our existence down here. But I mainly grew up in the States, and what happens when you live in a split up environment is you start to feel this weird vibe where you don't really fit in anywhere because you're starting to feel really mixed. So, like, I'm sure this happens to kids who are of immigrant parents. So, you're in society, you're one way, and at home, you're different. But I'm literally in two different countries. So, like, I'm constantly going between both cultures, like, actively, like, not just like in your home or your neighborhood, like the whole country, like your cousins like don't have the same interests as you. Like there is a different vibe here. The politics are different. The music, the food, the culture, the laws, like it's a different environment completely. It's a different country. So you literally experience this phenomenon of like I'm a halfer. Like I'm a halfling. Like I understand both, but I get none. And that's how I felt. I even wrote a paper about it. I called myself a dirty blood. I was like, I have dirty blood because I always felt like I couldn't fit in either way. Like I was never Mexican enough and I was never white enough. It was just like this in between part. So that's another thing that really influenced my childhood was I never had a secure sense of identity. And even what's even more weirder than that is when both sides of the family are not like really into their culture that much. Like one's not around to really even provide a lot of cultural context, and the other one is trying to copy a cultural. It's like I'm living in Barbie's home. Like it doesn't feel like an American home, but it's an American home. You know, it's like I lived in a model home. Like it looked like one of those like we're gonna sell this home. That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a house. Like that's what it felt like. And so that's what's interesting. It's like when you have a parent who doesn't have that cultural identity, or maybe they're like it's like those immigrant parents that want to adopt the culture so bad that they like let go of everything they know and they just become a giant stereotype. Like that's like the best image I can come up with this is like you have somebody that wanted to be a part of a culture so bad that they just wanted to adopt the whole thing and literally like let go of their roots. So it's weird being Mexican, but like I don't understand Chicano studies. Like I don't like I do and I don't. Because again, I was raised in Mexico as a Mexican, not in the States. I didn't grow up in los barrios. I grew up en las calles. You know what I'm saying? I grew up en la colonia, which is different than el barrio. Because el barrio, it's like a different culture. It's a different existence. It's a different, and again, I can relate to them, but I didn't have cousins like that. My cousins were, ¿qué pasó? ¿Cómo estás? A ver, like, it was different. And so it's just interesting to see how much, like, even growing up in different places can impact your life and how much the two sides of my family like can be polar opposites and give you such a weird and different perspective in life, and literally like feel you're the same person, but it feels like two different existences sometimes. You know, like I'm in different realms of existence, different thoughts and philosophies, different cultural identities, just different places to be. So it's just wild when you have this duality in your life, how much these cultures can influence who you are, but also allow you to adapt to all kinds of different circumstances. So I may have to have one belief system in the States and a whole different belief system in Mexico. Why? Because culturally, that's what I've been taught to do. You know, I might drive different here. I might talk different here. I might engage with people different here than I would in the States because there are differences in the way we need to exist in the worlds that we consume. So, anyways, thanks, guys. Just another day of like just kind of going back to my childhood, seeing different stuff. I'm just gonna keep plowing through, I think, relevant topics of my childhood until I kind of get through it all, and then see where we go from there. If any of the other topics come up, I'll bring them up next time, and especially again, who knows where life's going these days, and we got some wild times ahead of us. So, all right, thanks, guys, again for coming in and checking it out, and I'll see you guys in the next one later.